Episode 1, Part 1. The ancient oaks of the old wood hung over the path ahead, dipping their bare branches low to the ground. They bent and swayed, blown about by the fierce easterly wind. Farin watched, transfixed, from the back of his horse. The whole wood loomed large as he approached, a living mass of rippling, dancing, creaking. "No need to worry, lad." Balin did not look up at Farin as he rode beside him, his eyes ever fixed to the ground. They were swiftly darting this way and that, silently noting the passing of game by the signs they left in the wet mud, in the bent grass and broken branches. "Not worried, just cold," Farin replied quietly. Balin snorted. "Just do as you're told. Stick close to Lord Rain, and you'll come home in one piece." Farin looked ahead. Lord Rain rode beside his blade master Jotir, the two men talking casually while they ate in the saddle, gesturing every now and then towards the forest before them. The relentless wind blew their dark green cloaks flat against their heavy-set frames and carried their speech far from Farin. "How many times has Lord Rain been into the old wood?" Farin asked. "Hard to say," Balin replied with a shrug. "Been leading these hunts since I were a boy. Led me on my first, too." Balin looked up at the two figures riding ahead of him. An awed expression briefly crossed his face. "They say half the wealth of Eowyn has come from his hunts, or from those of the men he's taught." Balin looked over at Farin, then tucked his black hair behind his ear. "This I can tell you for sure," he continued, returning to studying the track ahead. "No other man I would choose to lead me into these woods." As they drew closer and closer, the whine of the wind was slowly swallowed up in the great continuous roar, the sound of the wind amongst the branches of the endless forest ahead. Lord Rain and Jotir paused at the tree line and turned, waiting for Balin and Farin to join them. Farin had grown up watching these two men from his father's field as they led companies of the hunt out past the family farm and into the wild, green cloaks flapping, brass buckles catching the morning sun, swords strapped to their sides. When they returned by evening, battered but often buoyed by the joy of a good haul, Farin's father would call them for food and rest, and so it was that Farin spent many nights peering down through the stairway banisters long after he should have been in bed, watching great lords and mighty warriors sitting around a farmer's table, laughing and drinking with his father as they told tales of their latest heroics. Each night, Farin had fallen asleep imagining himself as part of their stories, slaying his own great beasts and returning home with his own bounty. Each morning, however, he would rise early to feed the chickens, tend the horses, and work the fields till dusk. Then, a year passed. Lord Rain had arrived at the farm long after dark. 4 of his men had rushed him in through the kitchen door. He had been covered in blood and was deathly pale. Farin's mother had not hesitated. Within moments, she had put all the men to work. Rain's men cleared the table and laid their lord gently on it, while Farin's father went out to fetch healing supplies, and Farin was sent to the stables to tend Lord Rain's horse. He found the poor beast wild-eyed, shivering and limping with a large gash down its left flank. It had taken him the whole night to clean the wound and suture it. He had to stop often to calm the horse and speak gently to it, then return to his work by candlelight. Jotir found Farin the next morning, sleeping against the side of the horse with bloody rags and a needle in his hands. Lord Rain and the horse both lived. He had thanked Farin's whole family with his usual somber dignity put aside, smiling broadly as he clasped each one of them by the forearm in turn and bowed low. Out of gratitude, he gifted Farin's father 2 new work horses, his mother a large vial of sarif tincture, which was worth more than the farm would produce in a year, and to Farin he gave a dark green woolen cloak which fastened about the neck by a brass clasp shaped like twisting, interlocking vines, the uniform of the company of the hunt. He had not believed it then. He still struggled even now as he rode up to join Lord Rain and Jotir at the edge of the wood. He was about to be one of them. Farin's green cloak hung a little loose about his shoulders, and he was uncomfortable in the saddle. He was more used to grooming a lord's horse than riding one. Despite all that, nervous excitement jostled within him, infused his bones. Lord Rain looked Farin up and down, his cold blue eyes steely, calculating, weighing. Shortly, he scratched the gray stubble on his chin and asked, "How many years do you have, boy?" 14, Lord Rain, Farin replied. "Makes you a man, yes?" Farin paused for a moment, unsure how to answer, then gave a small nod. We shall see. Well, every man of the South needs his own sword. Jotir? The blade master opened the saddlebag and pulled out a long, narrow, cloth-bound package, about the length of a man's forearm, and handed it to Farin. Farin looked at it, stunned, then opened it eagerly. The cloth fell away to reveal a well-polished wooden hilt and leather scabbard, and within a shining steel blade. It glinted as Farin half unsheathed it. "My lord, Farin could not find the words. No one in Farin's family had ever been given something so fine. "A man does not forget his debts," Lord Rain replied simply, then turned to Jotir. "Make sure he doesn't stick himself with it, and teach him the woods as we go." Jotir nodded, then grinned as he grasped Farin's shoulder. "Just remember which end is the sharp one and keep it well oiled," he said with a wink, then added, more seriously, "and keep your eyes and ears open." Lord Rain turned his horse to face the tree line once more.
"Daylight is wasting, and we want to be homeward long before nightfall. Balin, lead on."
"Right you are, my lord," Balin replied with a bow of his head, and rode into the old wood.